What up, fools? Welcome back to Grand Prix World and our Minardi playthrough. Hope you enjoyed episode 1. I did get one or two questions coming in over. I got 2 Twitter messages and I got an email. It's always great to hear from you guys. Thanks very much for getting in touch. It seems that I wasn't quite as clear on some things as I thought, and some questions came up. First question was, if money is so tight, why am I making a profit right now? That's a fair question. I will answer that for you post haste. The reason is that we're not spending anything. And you might get the impression that because we've not spent anything and now we're making a profit, that we could actually run testing. That is a misconception. We couldn't. The reason we don't test isn't just because of the immediate cost involved around testing, it's also because of the wear that we put on the car that we then cannot afford to replace. Not just in terms of cash. I mean, in cash terms, if we cut all of the spending, maybe we could make it work, but it's also economic capacity, which we talked about a lot during the Arrows playthrough. So you'll see here, I can produce, thanks to my extra staff, 2 spare parts per Grand Prix. If we're constantly having to account for the extra wear and tear on the cars from testing that's not going to deliver us a better result than we were going to get without testing, really, we are going to find ourselves spending, I mean, at this rate, an extra 120,000 that we might not actually need to spend. It's not just about the cash, it's about your economic capacity. If your engineers are repairing the car, they're not doing something else. I hope that makes a bit more sense. I'm building a lot of spare parts because that's the only thing that really you should be spending a lot of money on. And we will have to try and keep the cars in some reasonable condition, but let me show you what I mean. If we were to... let's repair car 1, for example. That takes 80% of our staff. That's 80% of our entire mechanics capacity goes in to repairing one car that was about, let's take a look at the exact figure. How damaged were we? 59% damaged. Or worn, sorry, not damaged. That leaves us 20% of our mechanics to do everything else, which includes repairing car 2. Mechanics are also the staff that you assign to testing programs. You need mechanics as part of the test team in order to complete your tests. So if we'd assign those 20% of our staff to the test program, not only would we have spent a lot more money than we are doing right now, but also we wouldn't be able to keep the cars in working order. That's the main reason why you don't do it. Hopefully that answers your question. If you've got any other further questions on that topic, don't hesitate to leave me a comment below. Get me on Twitter, get me on email, and I will answer those questions for you. I'm not going to actually complete that repair. We're going to have to be a bit more frugal than that. Other questions that did indeed come up. I should have made a note of them, to be honest. One question was regarding... I'm really bad. That's it, test driver. Why have we hired a test driver? Why are we continuing to pay a test driver now when we're not actually running testing? And again, that's a very good question. I'm always impressed, actually, that the comments I get from you guys, you ask the right questions. That, I mean, I think it's fair to say that the average viewer who perhaps hadn't played the game before or hadn't kept up with the Arrows playthrough or just wasn't looking at things the right way would not have had that question come to their mind. So I'm pleased to see that you guys are sort of getting what I'm trying to convey in my videos about making smart decisions, about playing the efficiency game. And it is an excellent question. There is a good reason, though, you'll be pleased to know. The reason that we have not fired the floppy-haired Frenchman is because at any time, any one of these drivers can become injured. And you need to have a test driver available that you can move into a seat. Now, you can technically hire one immediately, but they're all more expensive. They all cost more than $24,000. So we might as well leave Lauren Redon on the payroll and continually have him there. It's also because there can come a time towards the end of the season where maybe we've got enough spare cash to run a single test, to try and get some data on one thing or another. The other thing that we should consider here, though, is keeping him on payroll is a continual drain on resources. So it's a fair way to look at it that it arguably makes just as much sense to pay a test driver $30,000 for half a season than it is to pay him $24,000 for a single season, if the chance remains that you don't have to pay anything. Hopefully that makes sense. So in theory, you can pay nothing, or you can end up paying a lot more. This strategy guarantees that we pay $24,000. I think it's reasonable, because particularly when you have a lot of DNFs, that increases the chance that your drivers can pick up an injury that takes them out of competition for a few rounds, and then we have to spend more money. Anyway, I'd just rather keep him on payroll. I think it's good to have someone in that seat regardless. However, it was an excellent question, and I'm very impressed that you guys took the time out to think about it that way and to ask that question. It was the right question to ask. The other thing was, if we're making money, doesn't that mean, first of all, that my statement that the team is always on the verge of bankruptcy is incorrect, and that we could be doing more to be more competitive? And again, it's a fair question. The answer in both cases is no. The reason we made money at all was because we've not been spending money. It's very easy to wipe out any residual profitability in the team, and we will do that automatically through our lack of competitiveness as the season progresses. So it's not going to be plain sailing just because I'm not spending any money. The second thing is that, again, it's the same as with construction, which is something else that came up, by the way, and I'll tackle that in a moment. Just because we're making a profit now doesn't mean we're actually making a profit across the course of a season. You will recall from the Arrows playthrough, if you've been with me that long, that during the final rounds of a season, you need liquid cash to the tune of $2 to $2.5 million dollars on hand to complete the final build of your cars for next season. And by the time you finish the last round, you have to have your race cars ready. So there are two factors beyond the design process that can kill your game, basically. Either you don't have enough economic capacity to build the cars, or you don't have enough financial capacity to build the cars. And we have to avoid that. And that means making savings all the way along, because getting up to 2 point whatever million is going to be difficult. I think it's fair to say it's doable because I've done it several times before, and you can do it through strategically selling parts of your team and for making continual savings. Just because we've pulled in 15 million with these two drivers, we won't see a penny of that till next season, and it's not like it comes in a bulk sum. So we have to continually play this sort of drip feed game in how we use our resources to take itty bitty baby steps forward. And then this compound effect starts to take effect, and each baby step forward you take stands on top of another baby step you took 2-3 rounds ago, and you gradually build up your capacity to produce things, to repair things, to keep the cars running, to bring money in, to negotiate contracts. Which brings me on to another thing. I was asked, why do I... They basically understood what I was saying in terms of why we need extra guys on hand in the construction department. What they don't understand is why that same argument doesn't apply to the other departments. And again, it's a fair question. Firstly, commercial. We're already down to level 1 morale. Gabriel Rumi is already really pissed off at us, and we're only getting 62% efficiency out of the department as a whole. That means each, let's call them a unit, each person in the department, 23 staff, each of them is producing 62% of their capabilities. So they're working not quite but almost half as well as they potentially could be, which means we're not getting the full value of the money that they cost per season. And so, for those who took on board what I said last episode, it doesn't make sense to hire someone for a $50,000 a year job if you're only going to get $35,000 worth of work out of them. That's bad economics. If you did that in real life, you would get fired from your job. That's how the world works. However, construction has a much more tangible quality. It's not this nebulous idea about how much work is being generated from the department that translates into X, Y, or Z. We know exactly the parameters by which we produce a car. So the rule is the car has to be completed in a single turn, 100% production. You can't put 80% production into a car and then finish it next round. So we need to have enough capacity within this department to produce at least one car in a turn by the end of the season. That has to be in place. And as morale goes down and each of these guys becomes less efficient, we have to hire them. These other departments, we don't have to. Even if we hired a bunch of guys, talented guys in the design department, by the time the morale effect takes its grip, we're getting low quality work out of them that makes very little difference to the ultimate end result. We are going to produce a bad car whether we have 2 or 3 expert designers or not, because the department as a whole will be working very, very inefficiently. There's no point wasting our money. We could spend an extra $500,000 hiring talented designers, but we're not going to get our money's worth from them. And the car is still going to be pretty crap at the end. It might be incrementally better, but it's going to be crap. And there's no point throwing good money after bad. We're already having to pay for the design process because that is non-optional as well. There's no point making that process more expensive when the end result is not going to be commensurately better. Same for commercial. Commercial's the area where people feel it's most important to hire someone to boost the department, and I can kind of understand why that is. But again, we're only getting 62% of their potential, and we'll get the deals we need without taking too many risks financially, without hiring all these extra people that we're not getting good value for money for. The way it works with Minardi and Tyrrell as well, actually, in particular, Minardi and Tyrrell are very similar in terms of difficulty terms, is every dollar has to go further than it does at another team. Every single dollar. And where at another team you might say, if you look at my Arrows playthrough, I'll hire talented designers without even thinking about it, because firstly, we've got the financial cushion to not even have to worry about it, and secondly, we're trying to stay at the top of the pile. Here, we're not even trying to get off the back of the grid, we're just trying to survive, and it's next season that we begin trying to get off the back of the grid. We'll do the best we can regardless, but there's no point spending all that extra money needlessly. It really is unnecessary. But construction, it is necessary because we have to be able to build a car. So even though I'm sorry, I forget your name who wrote me, but even though the guy who asked this question is 110% correct, that the same inefficiency reasons that we cite for not hiring guys in other departments apply to construction as well, constructing cars for next season is non-optional. So if you have to make sacrifices, if you have to have inefficiencies, then you have to account for them elsewhere. You have to make the savings elsewhere to allow the construction department to be inefficient, to be a drain on your resources. You have to decide which leg you're going to save. The leg that works or the leg that's trapped under a rock. It's that kind of logic. You have to make a very pragmatic decision in your running of the team, and that's what we have done. Someone else asked why I hired Tora Takagi when I rate Tuero and Nakano higher. Good point. I rate Tuero higher because he develops well. Initially, he's not as good as Takagi. Nakano and Deniz, to my mind, are the two best pay drivers by a noticeable margin. The reason I went for Takagi is because of the extra money. We could have made a Deniz Nakano pairing work for us, but why would we give up an extra 4 million when we're basically bankrupt? It's not optimal in terms of on-track performance, but it is optimal operationally. It gives us the cash on hand that we need to begin putting upgrades on the factory and to begin getting the most out of what we've got. And even 4 or 5 seasons from now, we are going to be playing very, very efficiently, because the only way to build a sustainable campaign of success in this game is to build slowly and build efficiently and make smart decisions. Incidentally, thank you to whoever it was who shared my video over on Steam forums for Motorsport Manager. I was browsing the Motorsport Manager forums trying to find out when the release date is, and someone posted a video link saying, "Well, the game's delayed, but this is good to watch in the meantime." And it was my Arrows playthrough. So thank you to whoever did that. I do appreciate it. Hopefully, the video gets people hyped for a new motorsport management game. This is all I ever wanted, really, was to show people how cool this game is and help people who were maybe struggling with it, and secondly to reignite a bit of interest in this genre, because it's been terribly neglected for 2 decades now, and to my mind that's inexcusable. So thank you to whoever did that. Very cool of you. Right, let's press on. So we've already started to make some basic progress with the 1999 car. We're still focusing 100% of our designers there. There's no point spending their capacity over here, or over here, or here, because again, if they're working on this, they're not working on next year's car. And secondly, everything they produce from these bottom 3 tabs requires cash and requires economic capacity to produce. So basically, if we're upgrading technology, if we're upgrading the 1998 car, or we're upgrading driver aids, we're not building spare parts. And spare parts are the only thing we need to keep the car on the road. We don't need any of these things to keep the team in the competition. We just need to have a functional car. The only decision that I'm not 100% sure about at this stage is upgrades for the factory. You guys know very well that I am a big advocate of getting the CAD and CAM systems early. The reason for that is supercomputer also counts. Any mixture of those 3 I think is really, really important. Testing rig for some midfield teams makes a lot of sense as well. The wind tunnel and the workshop, you need to put those to the back of your mind. They're sort of end game upgrades, in my opinion. But these 4 in particular are the sort of the early. A combination of those 4 are the first 2 upgrades you need to get, and you need to prioritize pretty early. CAD obviously means that you're getting a lot more efficiency out of your design department than you would without it. Same for CAM. The CAM enrichment, we'll call it, the CAM add-on for your factory, just means that your construction department can produce more with the same number of staff. Also important. The testing rig is complicated. The testing rig boosts the data you get from testing, but you need to have an extra car to put on the test rig. So although it's a good multiplier for your test data and can really help you develop your car, it comes with a whole host of costs beyond the construction cost of the equipment. So again, out of the 4, I'd probably put that one as your last purchase, but again, your mileage may vary. It depends which team you're playing as. If you've got the economic capacity to produce and pay for a 4th car, then why not build a test rig? The supercomputer, that has an effect on several things actually. I believe that boosts testing to some degree as well. It also assists with the design stage, so it's kind of multifunctional, but I don't believe it's as strong as a targeted specific upgrade. So the testing rig does more for testing, and the CAD system does more for design than the supercomputer does for either. However, it's a good top up to have. For Minardi, I'd still advocate for a CAD CAM setup initially, and to make those your priority. Question we have is if we're going to bother installing them this season. I'm going to hold out till the end of the season and just make a single payment rather than have a constant per race drain on our budget. And another thing to remember is make sure you don't have a wind tunnel hired for any length of time beyond the minimum that you require. We've received no upgrades. Again, not really a surprise. We're not going to be doing any testing. There's no point worrying about that. Again, something to remember, damage to your race cars has a greater detrimental effect to their performance than wear does. So 1% damage I wouldn't even worry about, to be quite honest. And what I'm going to try and do, if the maths works out, and I don't think it does, is again efficiency. You reach the point where an extra 1% repair uses an extra spare part, and the game can screw you. Because you're not dealing in absolute percentages, there's sort of a hidden number here, and it can be that I hit this repair button now and the required number of spare parts goes down to 1. Or it can be that we get all the value of this repair, but we still need 2 spare parts to complete the repair, and that obviously would screw us. Either way though, it only screws you in the short term, because at the end of the day it still requires the same number of spare parts overall to complete the repair, because you would finish the repair next round and you've built a cushion into that second unit. I hope that makes sense. Even I thought that was a nebulous thought. I'm going to favour Nakano because he is the more talented of our drivers, and we're going to try and put some effort into our on-track performances. We will be DNQing again in the future. I won't lie to you and say that's not going to happen anymore, because we have to. Let's see if we get screwed here. No, we didn't. That's good. That makes me happy. I'm going to save the game, and then you and I will do the dance of our people on the track in Argentina. Exciting. So, car is repaired. Everyone's happy, except it seems Esteban Tuero and Gabriel Rumi, who are both unhappy for various reasons. Let's take a look at the news before we go on. Michael Schumacher obviously won the last round, and Mika Hakkinen got pole position. Tim Edwards will be joining us instead of Williams. Poor choice there, Tim. We had a nightmare at our race, except we didn't because we planned for it. We are not having great luck with our relations with the FIA, but that's fine. Benetton have signed Johnny Newhouse. That's a pretty bold signing, but, you know, good on them. Good on them. Michael Schumacher got the fastest lap last time out, and Olivier Panis will be driving for Jordan. That's a pretty good signing for them, in my opinion. I've always rated Panis in this game. I think he's got that excellent combination of experience with a few years left still to give, and he's a pretty mid-range driver in terms of talent and cost, so good move there. Tyrrell have signed Ralf Schumacher. That's a very brave call. And Williams have signed Michael Schumacher. That's 36 million they'll never see again. Adrian Newey will be performing his duties over at Williams, so pretty powerful combination there. As long as they've got Schumacher on a contract beyond 1 season, then he'll be driving an Adrian Newey designed Williams for the 2000 season. That's got to be an exciting prospect. Nigel Stepney and Ian Phillips, 2 5-star guys, are also going to Williams. It seems Williams are pushing the boat out here to get back to championship winning ways. Good on them. Williams have also signed British Aerospace as a sponsor. Ferrari will or have picked up David Coulthard, and John Lacey looks likely to be going to McLaren. We've picked up Mike Gascoigne as our chief designer, and Sauber are in the hunt for Eddie Irvine. That's pretty impressive on their part. Alan Prost is the worst manager of the month, whereas Frank Williams has picked up the Manager of the Month award. Good on you, Big Frank. Everyone loves a bit of Frank. Let's see what's going on in Sponsor Town. We did say that we were going to run ourselves a cheeky wee bit of hospitality. I picked Buenos Aires because it's the first sort of mid-level track that we come across. It's going to cost us $148,500 to bring people along, which is a lot. It's money that we really shouldn't be spending, and I wouldn't normally. The reason I'm doing it is so we can discuss a little bit the effect and the benefits of doing it. The first and most immediate benefit is you can see how likely you are to get any particular deal negotiated. So if we try and invite Peugeot, they will come, which means they're not going to another team, which means at the moment at least, we are perhaps not the only team talking to them, but we're the primary team talking to them. And that means we don't have any immediate direct competition for that works deal. That will change as things move on, but still, it's a good sign. Agip as well will join us, as will Bridgestone. Bridgestone have more than one representative. It's not as clear cut as it is with someone like Peugeot or Agip, for example. If they refused our offer, that means they're going somewhere else, which means they're going to be receiving hospitality from someone else, which means that team is going to get a boost. What's the point of hospitality? Well, just as in real world F1, it comes up, I hear this question quite a lot actually. Why would a small company or a company no one's ever heard of pay a lot of money to have their logo on the side of an F1 car? Well, it's not just for that reason. The main reason is that once you become involved in F1 as a sponsor, you get an unprecedented level of access. And the benefits of that are twofold for your business. The first is you get tickets to Grand Prix, which means you can take a business associate or a client on a free trip to a Grand Prix and use that to grease the wheels and get a deal done. Secondly, you get access to the Paddock Club. And that means when you go for breakfast or when you go for lunch, you are in a room full of some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in the world. That is attractive. It's worth the outlay. You know, there are people who will pay £50,000, £60,000 to a charity auction to have dinner with a millionaire. It's because just by getting that one-to-one time with someone, or even just being in the room with them, you have a chance to forge a connection, to get to know someone who can make things happen for you. And the benefits to a company are pretty substantial. The same thing applies in Grand Prix World. By offering hospitality to existing or potential new sponsors, you develop a multiplier effect on the efforts of your commercial team to negotiate a deal with them. There are 4 levels that affect the effectiveness of your hospitality. First is the quality of the track, and second is the quality of the overall experience. That is the sum effect of how much staff you put on overall quality of the experience and how many staff you dedicate to each particular sponsor. So these affect this. The third and fourth factors are the catering and the comfort level of the trip. So you see, I can choose to spend more here, and it gives them a different experience. And the catering, likewise. We don't have money to really impress people, and the reason that you don't do hospitality as Minardi usually is, firstly, anything you offer is not particularly impressive. The effect overall is going to be quite small, and where we really get benefit is from the quality of the track. That's why I suggest, particularly Monaco, making sure that you are present with your VIPs. Second of all, um, the, the reason is that it's a massive drain on your resources. It costs a lot of money. I'm looking at it now, and I think that actually I've been able to explain the situation without having to drop 200k, showing the immediate effect, because it's kind of hard to sort of tangibly understand what the effect is. I'm going to put that 5% of guys back onto talking to someone. I might try and pick up a 1-star sponsor. Let's put 5% on Intercond. Just see if we can't get some cash monies rolling in. So we've just saved ourselves 200 grand by not doing that. We will have to spend that money later to impress these guys. Probably at Monaco, I guess at Belgium as well. It has its place. It has its place. It can help you secure a deal that would otherwise be beyond your reach. And particularly with Peugeot, we need to make that extra effort. We really do. Right, everything is, I believe, set up and fine and dandy. So we are going to go to race day. No setup points to speak of. We're going to keep Shinji Nakano on the soft tyres, Esteban Tuero on the hard. I think that makes sense. 100% of our guys are going to be working on pit stops. We've got nothing to hide, nothing to gain from learning about other teams' driver aids. Someone has commented 2 or 3 times on the old videos, actually, that there is a list you can see of teams with driver aids. Yes, there is. But the reason that I don't use that is because I'm primarily looking for illegal driver aids, not the homologated ones. I want to get my rivals disqualified because that costs me nothing and I gain from it. Copying a homologated driver aid saves you some development time, but it still costs money. So that's the answer to that question, why we do it that way. Right, off we go. So 23 degrees and dry, so not especially shaping up well for us, I don't think. Let's see where we come out. 19th and 20th. So we've out-qualified the Tyrrells, pretty close between Rosset and Tuero, but we've made it work. Tyrrell will overtake us as the season goes on because the AI cheats, and they don't have to actually work within their budget constraints. That's why the AI, like Tyrrell, the AI have managed to sign Ralf Schumacher. I can tell you now that's not really possible if you were playing as Tyrrell. At least not easily possible. I actually saw someone commented on Steam underneath the video of mine that was shared. Someone said, I won the championship with Shinji Nakano as Minardi in 1999. I'm going to call it now, that's bullshit. That's complete bollocks. It's not possible. So there we go. It isn't possible. 20 degrees, light rain with a strong wind. That might actually improve our chances a little bit. We'll keep everyone on a 2-stop strategy. I don't like getting particularly inexperienced drivers to try and push in the wet on heavily worn tyres, so I'd rather keep them on relatively fresh rubber. 12th and 13th, so we got a double finished, and we finished ahead of the Tyrrells. Shinji Nakano actually was lapped 2 less times than his colleague, and both Tyrrells, so pretty good show from Nakano actually. He finished on the same lap as Jan Magnussen Stewart. Pretty impressive. Eddie Irvine takes the win for Ferrari on a 1:56.40002. Jean Alesi second for Sauber. That's a hell of a result for them. They'll be super pleased with that. Best bit is he finishes ahead of Mika Hakkinen, who completes the podium for McLaren. Damon Hill puts his Jordan fourth. Again, a very strong result in poor conditions. David Coulthard for McLaren takes 5th, and Heinz Harald Frentzen rounds off the points in 6th. Good shows as well from Giancarlo Fisichella in his Benetton and Pedro Diniz in his Arrows, finishing 7th and 8th respectively. The non-finishers, Mika Salo's Arrows had a suspension failure, Engine failure took out Ralf Schumacher's Jordan. Michael Schumacher had an off. Driver error removed Alexander Wurz and his Benetton from proceedings. Double DNF for Prost, Olivier Panis with an engine failure and Jarno Trulli with an accident. And Rubens Barrichello had a suspension failure plaguing his Stewart. Bad luck indeed. In the Drivers' Championship, Michael Schumacher continues to lead, although teammate Eddie Irvine has leapfrogged David Coulthard to take second and has closed the gap to a mere 6 points. David Coulthard sits third on 11 points, Mika Hakkinen fourth on 10, and John O'Lacey jumps up the order to sit fifth on 8 points. Over in Constructor Land, Ferrari stay top of the pile, 34 points, McLaren in second on 21 points, Sauber sit a surprising third on 8 points. Williams and Jordan continue to share fourth position on 6 points, and Benetton round off the top 6 with 3. Jolly good show. Let's see what's going on in the news. Everyone's upset now, but we knew that was coming. Eddie Irvine is very happy to have won his first Grand Prix. David Coulthard got pole position. Here we go. This has happened. Jarno Trulli is out for at least the next race due to injury, thanks to his accident. McLaren is very happy to have both cars in the top 6. Minardi drivers are upset that the car is lacking power. Well, there's nothing we can really do about that. We don't have control over the power unit. We can't afford to develop the car, so yeah. David Coulthard has signed with Ferrari. Johnny Herbert will be moving to Williams. Jordan have completed the signing of Alexander Wurz. That's a good signing for them. John O'Lacey will be going to McLaren, so pretty good. Prost have signed Giancarlo Fisichella, and Sauber have signed Eddie Irvine. Stewart have completed the re-signing of Rubens Barrichello, and both our drivers had a slow start. Ferrari have signed Petronas, and Komatsu will be sponsoring Williams. Nothing particularly interesting otherwise. We turned a profit last Grand Prix of 58,895. So you see, if we had done hospitality, we would have made a net loss of about 100,000. That's money we really can't afford to be losing. Taking a look at the staff situation, no construction guys to sign. So yeah, nothing particularly to write home about. Still nothing really for us to do. I'm going to save the game and we will press on. Welcome back to the Minardi party. There ain't no party like a Minardi party, because a Minardi party don't stop, except when it does. We have in principle agreed a customer deal, 6.4 million for Peugeot Power. We're still going to hold on and try and get that works deal. It's only a 1-season deal, but the money makes the difference. No progress so far on tyre or fuel deals, but that's normal for Minardi. We shouldn't freak out about that. And yeah, no progress whatsoever on the Intercon deal either. Again, nothing to worry about. Let's take a look at how the team is valued. So we've gone up 5,000. I still would not recommend selling at that value. So we're not going to sell any other team at this point. We're just going to continue keeping the purse strings tight. Over in Construction Land, we've gained a little bit of efficiency, so we're going to produce 2 more spare parts. Add those to the pile. Looking into the design office, we've made a little bit more progress. The efficiency has crept up a little bit, although it's still far below what would be classed as competitive. We still don't have next year's regulations confirmed, so we haven't lost or gained anything right now. Ultimately, we won't have lost anything anyway, because as I discussed prior to the last race, the other 3 things that our designers could be doing cost us money and time and production that we just don't have, so we don't lose anything by doing this. We're not going to bother with any factory upgrades. We're still not going to be testing. It pisses the drivers off, but they're just going to have to deal with it. Instead, we are now going to be repairing our cars. So we'll get that done. Nice. I'm impressed actually about how strong a condition we're keeping our cars in. I'm not hiring any extra mechanics for the same reason. You might be thinking, well, surely you can repair the cars to a much higher, more efficient standard with more mechanics. You are correct, but again, it's just a case of the financial argument right now. So nothing else to do really. The quality at Imola isn't worth us running any hospitality at this point. We're just going to continue chatting away to people. Things remain exactly as they are. We're going to continue to run a split strategy on the tyres because I can think of no reason not to. Yeah, smash it. 25 degrees and cloudy for qualifying in San Marino. Let's see where we end up this time. 20th and 22nd. Mika Hakkinen takes pole for McLaren on a 126.106. Pretty close at the front with Michael Schumacher taking second for Ferrari on a 126.120. David Coulthard rounds off the top three in his McLaren on a 126.143. So all within a tenth in the top three. Eddie Irvine puts his Ferrari fourth. Giancarlo Fisichella has a pretty strong qualifying to put his Benetton fifth on a 126.328. Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Johnny Newhouse bring the Williams up onto the grid 6th and 7th. Alexander Wurtz's Benetton sits 8th, Ralf Schumacher's Jordan is 9th, and Pedro Diniz out-qualifies Damon Hill to take 10th. Good on him indeed. We have been out-qualified by Toru Takagi. Riccardo Rossi has also managed to get the better of Esteban Tuero, but that was only a matter of time. We're still in the same rough ballpark in terms of lap times as the Tyrrells. We can't really keep pace with them, so we're going to have to let them overtake us at some point. But still, they're not quite there yet. 26 degrees and dry for race day. Again, we're going to switch to fresh rubber for both cars because running scrub tyres serves no purpose. Let's see where we end up now. 14th and 19th. Esteban Tuero finished. Unfortunately, Shinji Nakano has had an accident, which we could have really done without. Again, a lot of attrition in this race, but we'll run down the order. Mika Hakkinen takes the win from that pole position. 135.47.103. Pretty big gap back to Michael Schumacher in second. Eddie Irvine makes it a double Ferrari podium. Alexander Wurz puts his Benetton in fourth. Excellent result for him. David Coulthard's McLaren lines up fifth, and Johnny Newhouse takes the final points paying position for Williams. Shout out to Pedro Diniz, who converted a top 10 qualifying to a top 10 finish. Good boy. In terms of the race, Tuero made it in front of Toru Takagi's Tyrrell, showing that we have the legs on race pace if not qualifying. Mika Salo was taken out due to an unknown problem with his arrows. Double brake failure on the Prosts. Stefan Sarazan and Olivier Panis both out of the race due to brake failure. Sarazan obviously subbing for Jarno Trulli, displaying what I was talking about earlier, why you need a test driver. Shinji Nakano had an accident in his Minardi, bad boy indeed. A fuel and drive problem took out Riccardo Rossi. Jean Lace's Sauber had an accident. That was a surprise. That caught me out, actually. I thought I'd seen him further up the order, but apparently not. And a brake failure also took out the Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Sad times. Michael Schumacher continuing to lead the Drivers' Championship there. Mika Hakkinen restored to second position, leapfrogging Eddie Irvine, who now sits third on 18 points. In the Constructors, Ferrari continue to lead, 44 points to McLaren's 33. Sauber remain in third position. That makes me happy. Williams sit fourth on 7 points, and Benetton and Jordan joint fifth on 6 points apiece. Happy days. Guys, thank you so very much for joining me. I hope you're having an amazing week so far. I have to go out for lunch now, and then I'll make some more videos and things. My apologies that the F1 2016 video isn't with you right now. There was a mandatory non-optional Windows 10 update that installed itself overnight and shut down my computer, so I had to resume the upload this morning. My guess is that video probably won't even reach you today now. It will likely be tomorrow. But I will also be recording qualifying for round 4 in Sochi. So please do join me for that, and we'll be doing some more arrows things shortly. Have a good one. Bye bye now.